Cinema.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Secretary, for being here today. In 2022, we saw a record number of encounters at our southwest border, over 2.5 million individuals. While just under half of these migrants were removed under Title 42 authorities, the current system had multiple points of failure throughout last year. In Arizona, local governments were forced to step in to provide emergency support to avoid street releases and reassign staff from other important roles to help manage the release of migrants from CBP custody. Earlier this month, I led a bipartisan congressional delegation to the southwest border in Cochise County, Arizona, where we met with local leaders to hear how the ongoing border crisis affects their communities. And their message was clear: this crisis puts our border communities in danger. We heard from Cochise County Sheriff Mark Daniels about the issue of cartels recruiting young American teens, some as young as 14 years old, for dangerous smuggling operations along the border, and the need for my recently reintroduced bipartisan legislation, the Combating Cartels on Social Media Act. This legislation would establish and implement a national strategy to combat cartel recruitment activity on social media and other online platforms. The administration's continued failures on the border put Arizona communities and our national security at risk. The ongoing influx of migrants puts serious strain on DHS resources, and it forces Border Patrol agents out of the field and into processing and administrative roles. With the Title 42 termination imminent, I remain concerned that DHS is not ready. This is the same sentiment that I expressed at this same hearing last year, and unfortunately no action has been taken between now and then to change my opinion. And more importantly, the opinion of leaders in border communities who will be left to manage the fallout. So my first question for you, Secretary, I learned this morning that the Regional Center for Border Health, the only non-governmental organization operating in Yuma County, received a denial of reimbursement for a facility that they've been operating since 2021 from FEMA and the EFSP National Board. This denial could cause the regional center to shut down operations, which would be a disaster for Yuma County, but it would also be a disaster for Border Patrol. Will you commit to working with me to identify a path forward so that Yuma does not lose its only NGO providing support to these migrant families?
Senator, I'm not familiar with the Emergency Food and Shelter Program application of the organization that you identify and the denial of their request for reimbursement. I commit to you to look into that with you and to work with you to address it as best as we can. We're very grateful for Congress's plus up of the Emergency Food and Shelter Program to I believe the level of $800 million in total, and of course it's moving to the Shelter and Services Program in just a few months.
So thank you, Secretary. As you know, I worked very hard to ensure that funding was included in our recent omnibus, but denying that funding to the Regional Border Health Center in Yuma will literally mean that there is zero assistance for anyone in Yuma County. So I would like rapid follow-up to ensure that this community can continue to provide a safe transition and an orderly transition for those migrants. In December of 2022, migration surged due to the anticipated end of Title 42. Border Patrol encountered over 220,000 migrants just in that month. Many of these migrants were quickly expelled back to Mexico because of agreements with Mexico to accept removed individuals from certain countries. Arizonans are concerned about the status of these agreements once Title 42 authorities are rescinded in just a few weeks. Losing these agreements will drive additional migration. Is DHS working with the State Department and the government of Mexico so that they continue to accept these nationals from these countries after Title 42 ends?
Senator Sinema, we are indeed working with the government of Mexico. We are in active discussions with them. We are not only working with the government of Mexico, but we're working with other partner countries throughout the region to address migration that is at a level that is gripping the entire hemisphere, not just the southern border of the United States. You are correct in focusing on a regional solution to what is clearly a regional challenge.
On the CODEL that I recently led, Sheriff Daniels of Cochise County highlighted the dangers to his community associated with cartels targeting teenagers through social media apps. And Mayor McCaw of Sierra Vista shared how a recent chase ended outside of a local school. So my Combating Cartels on Social Media Act will help DHS counter this threat, and it'll work with social media companies to get cartel recruiters off of their platforms. Arizona communities cannot wait for this to play out on its own through the legislative process. So what is DHS doing today to solve this problem and protect American children and our border communities from this cartel criminal activity?
Senator, we are taking it to the cartels in unprecedented ways. We are working our Homeland Security investigations, personnel, the criminal investigative arm of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, has surged resources to address the cartels and the nefarious activity that they engage in, not just, of course, in Arizona, but across our southern border, on the Mexican side of that border, which is impacting our border communities. We have set up transnational criminal investigative units, for example, working with our Mexican counterparts and in other countries to address the cartels, to interdict them, their activities, to disrupt and dismantle their nefarious activities. They peddle in death and destruction, and we are working intensely to address them, and not alone, but also across this administration and with our partners to the south.
So at a hearing last year in this committee with social media executives, I secured commitments from TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube to share their cartel recruitment information with DHS. My question for you, Secretary, is will you increase DHS's engagement back with those social media companies to ensure that they are held to the word that they gave me in this hearing, and so that they're doing their part to prevent cartels from recruiting teens along our southwest border?
Senator, what we do is we disseminate information. We broadcast it widely with respect to the threat streams that we are encountering, so individuals and organizations can be alert to those threat streams and take the action that they think warranted. Social media companies, of course, have terms of use. They are responsible for whether or not particular communications remain or are taken off their site. What we do is we alert the American public, including the business sector, to the threat streams that we are addressing so that they can take the action they deem appropriate.
Is there any attempt by DHS to hold those companies accountable for taking action when they receive information about cartel recruitment on these social media platforms?
Senator, that is not within our remit, but I look forward to studying your proposed legislation and continuing to work with our partners across the administration to ensure that the cartels are addressed in every facet that we can.
Mr. Chairman, I know my time has expired. I would just note that based on this communication, it seems evident to me that Congress will have to take action and pass this legislation. The administration will not, or is not interested in moving forward without accountability, without our legislation. So I'd encourage my colleagues to support the bill. Thank you.
Hey, before you click on the next video, if y'all could do me a big favor and hit that like button. The algorithm loves it, and so do I, because it helps promote these videos and get the message out about what our government has been doing. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications, because every time I put out a video, you want to know about it, right? Thanks again, and have a good one. See you on the next one. Peace.